Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services, including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices in Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning.
Tom, we've been doing a sequence now on Medicaid, and the fact is that many times there's an impression that, go to see an elder law attorney is going to cost a lot of money. And the reality is we sit down with clients and outline what the program is going to look like, what the fees might look like. And there's really just a consulting fee to come see the first time. It's not about, a huge amount of money. And people hear these urban myths all the time that it's going to cost a mountain of money.
Exactly. And most of the time we spend just outlining the issues, explaining the rules as they affect that family, tweaking the missing paperwork or pointing out issues that we need to deal with. And I mean, that's simple and inexpensive stuff.
Oftentimes the wills for people with less than $1 million are very simple. Oftentimes the healthcare directives are okay because really the healthcare system is looking for anything that can work, so you tend not to have too much trouble there. But we do have a huge problem with unqualified lawyers, meaning people who are not familiar with Medicaid, doing the statutory Pennsylvania power of attorney, and the fact in Maryland any power of attorney prior to 2010 needs to be redone if the person has capacity. Why do we have to deal with these statutory powers?
Well, because they're in many cases defaulting to a very minimal or restrictive set of language. And so in order to do the more advanced planning that we need specific language that needs to be included in those documents.
And oftentimes what might appear to be the right choice to a non-qualified elder law attorney or to a lay person is just simply wrong, and they don't understand that it's wrong.
Exactly, and that language is important if we lose capacity for one of our clients. And so if you've got limiting language in there, that makes it almost impossible to do some of the advanced planning we do.
And part of the reason we use the statutory forms is these money center institutions, the big brokerage houses, the big banks, title companies, they all resist the use of powers of attorney. And so if you comply with the Pennsylvania and Maryland law, you now have a document that they don't have the option to jerk you around on.
Exactly. And these papers are written for the purpose of persuading a third party to follow the directions of your agents. And if they can look in these banks and whatnot, can find any flaw, they're going to do that.
And one of the challenges is, yes, you can get these documents off the internet. Nobody kids anybody about it.
No doubt.
But if you pull the Maryland statutory power of attorney off of the internet, you're not going to have the authority to do medical assistance planning.
Exactly. And if you don't pull the right version in Pennsylvania, and especially one that's valid after 2015 when we had major changes, there are hot powers, they refer to them. If you pick the wrong hot power, you are handcuffed in doing certain things.
And that's the problem. Maryland has had 3 changes in the statutory power of attorney since 2010. Frankly, there are not many lawyers that even recognize the differences, but it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, in Pennsylvania in particular, you're going to have a problem because, in fact, they are easily recognizable, that sequencing. And the problem is the stuff on the internet is not date stamped that says the pre-2015 is no longer any good because you're now executing it in 2017.
Exactly, and that's the problem with just pulling stuff without any guidance. You don't know what you're getting or not getting, and it makes a huge difference.
And we oftentimes look at people and say, are you really trying to tell me? We charge basically $100 for powers of attorney. So you're going to take a $10,000 a month risk over trying to save $100 and running the risk that it fouls up your ability to do an effective Medicaid case.
Well, that's good basic math to think about, because that's what it comes down to. I mean, it's just not hard to put in place and do it properly.
And so we caution people every day is that, this is a big risk environment. It is important that it be right. And from our perspective, if the power of attorney is right, I tell them it's right. It doesn't matter. We don't make enough on it to make any difference anyway. The real goal is to have people equipped, understand that they're always in a position to protect themselves, and most of the time, less is more.
Absolutely. Do the basic smart things and everything will take care of itself.
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us, Wright Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Double Save Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to the special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. With me today is Phil Dacey, Deputy Administrator, Department of Transportation, Motor Vehicle Association. Quite a title, Phil.
Yeah, that is a long title.
And I probably got it 3/4 right. But in any event, I think one of the goals that we always want to deal with is it's very important for retired people to stay independent. And contrary to what people think, the Motor Vehicle Administration is actually committed to helping people stay independent and able to drive.
Absolutely. It is our goal here at the MVA to actually keep people as mobile as possible, as long as possible in their vehicles. We recognize that people do better when they are able to drive.
And it is a privilege, but safety is also equally important, so we have to strike the balance between independence and safety. And contrary to what people might think, taking away your license is not the only way to assure safety. There are other things that you can do too that might improve that.
Absolutely. There are a lot of steps in between an evaluation and taking away somebody's license. And as I said, we want to try and keep people as mobile as possible, as long as possible. So sometimes that means doing tests, doing evaluations, but with the goal of making sure people can stay safe on the roads. So.
It's also a recognition as we age, we may have to compensate for some items that, we're not quite as quick on the reaction, we don't see as well at night as we might have previously seen. And so the reality is also to kind of focus and educate people on how they can improve their opportunities to be safe within the context of their physical limitations.
That's absolutely correct, and we do encourage drivers to self-limit. Most drivers actually do self-limit. That means not driving as much at night.
Maybe knowing where you're going.
Exactly, knowing where you're going, not driving as much at night, plan your routes, that sort of thing. So,
and no distracted driving, which is bad for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, no distracted driving, which tends to not be quite as much a problem in the older community as it is in the younger community, frankly.
And part of what you've done is you've partnered with several private organizations to try to help develop some safety tips. Tell us who you're partnering with.
Sure. Well, we've partnered with the AAA, the AARP, Maryland Department of Aging, and some other organizations that are involved in safe driving. And we have a regular meeting with those folks to go over the issues that older drivers may face.
So some of those organizations have safe driving courses, which you encourage people to participate in, but you've also created a pamphlet here. I'll see if cameraman Clint can pick this up, see if I can keep from shining it in people's eyes. And so what is this?
This is a resource for aging drivers, and it really has a lot of good information. It's got tips, it's got information on how health can affect your driving. It's got information for folks that may have to actually transition away from driving. So there's a lot of good information, a lot of good resources within that guide.
So it's 40, 50 pages, and it has tips for daytime driving, gaps, night driving, rain driving, and other things that people can do that would try to make them safer and also extend their ability to continue to drive.
That's absolutely correct. The resource guide has lots of checklists and phone numbers and contact information for organizations that are able to help, evaluate, train, and eventually, transition away from driving if that's necessary for an individual.
Well, and of course, once in a while, we do have issues where people are clearly not safe, and so the family is very concerned about it. What can they do if they feel like they need to address that issue?
Well, people can always contact the Motor Vehicle Administration in writing. Anybody can contact anonymously if necessary to report somebody who may not be safe to drive. And that doesn't mean the MVA will immediately suspend that person or take away driving privileges, but we would look into the case further to make sure that somebody is safely able to continue to drive.
So while we want to respect independence, and we also have to respect safety, and once in a while that becomes an issue.
Absolutely, yes. Sometimes there are cases where people are unable to drive safely, and after evaluation from the MVA, we do have to transition those folks away from driving.
Now, I know you have that published handbook, and I know that it's available online as well.
That's correct, yeah. It's available on our website for free, www.mva.maryland.gov. And you can also get it at your local Department of Aging center. We have a number of them printed as well.
Phil, I want to thank you for taking time to appear on the show. Great topic.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
Guys, I thought you were supposed to be working in the yard.
But Dad, just one more bid on HurleyAuctions.com.
If you haven't visited HurleyAuctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at HurleyAuctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Gabrielle Henry, Executive Director, Greenfield Assisted Living, Hagerstown. Welcome to the show, Gabrielle.
Yes, thank you very much.
One of the interesting things about what we deal with in terms of our interaction with people dealing with dementia is people don't realize that its prevalence has increased dramatically and has a lot to do with people living much longer. The Alzheimer's Association will say that 50% of the population at 85 has some form of dementia, and yet many years ago these assisted living facilities were built with no dementia capacity.
Yes, that is true. So we specialize in dementia and Alzheimer's. So we have a community where we house 3 different wings, 3 different communities with different stages of dementia, so that an individual can age in place in our community.
And one of the things I say to families every day, even when a person's losing capacity, when they're in these facilities that have 50 people in a common area, they have people who are very low functioning, and you don't have to have much cognitive awareness to realize you don't belong there.
Yes, that is true. So that's why we like to separate the 3 different stages into 3 different communities. So that way there are about approximately 20 residents per wing. So that way we can really focus on our individualized care.
And then high-functioning people are interacting with high-functioning people, which then tends to make their quality of life better.
Yes, it's what they're surrounded by in everyday scenarios. During group activities, our higher functioning individuals are working together in group activities, where activities for the lower functioning individuals have more of a sensory-based one-on-one activity.
And you can also gear your caregiving to reflect the needs of the people depending on which wing they're in.
Yes, we like to do a rotating staff. That way all the staff members know every single resident in the community, and they're able to help one another care for these residents. And also whenever they're assigned to a certain wing, they know and have expectations of what type of care they're prepared to do during their shift.
And I oftentimes say about your facility, it's not a facility that's mixed, in which there are people who are not dementia and people who are dementia. When they go to work in your facility, they've already made a commitment to deal with dementia.
Yes, and we have a very vigorous orientation process to bring awareness to those new staff members of what type of residents we will be caring for, and they have ongoing Alzheimer's dementia training throughout the year.
And as we look at this, part of the challenge is here as we do admissions is that I oftentimes say that it's not safe for that dementia person to be in their own home. Now, why would I make such a statement?
Having a dementia resident at home is a huge risk, not only an elopement risk, but a stimulating factor where if they're sitting at home, what are they really doing at home all day? We provide a safe, stimulating environment where we engage them in activities, whether we're triggering some long-term memory or triggering some new short-term memory aspects into them.
And one of the challenges here is that oftentimes they develop sundowner syndrome, which then means the caregiver's own sleep is being disrupted, and they end up oftentimes being completely overstressed. And oftentimes when it's a husband and wife, the children have no idea the stress that the caregiver spouse is under.
That is true, and we call this transfer trauma. Not only does the individual, the resident coming into our new community can display transfer trauma, their family member can display transfer trauma. We supply support with all the families, and we understand where they're coming from. However, if you are the caregiver, it kind of takes away from the relationship you have with that individual, where you have to kind of in turn be proactive and trust us as a healthcare professional that we're able to take care of your loved one, and you're able to build that relationship back up as a father, daughter, or a spouse, where the caregiver aspect's out of it.
And one of the things that we see in our practice, which we cannot document on a scientific basis, but we see it anecdotally, is 2/3 of the caregivers are dying before the person they're taking care of.
Yes, caregiving is has a huge toll on one. I personally have witnessed it myself. Whenever we're caregiving, it takes a huge toll on the relationship, and sometimes you have to entrust in a healthcare professional who is trained and adequately prepared to care for those individuals.
And one of the great challenges here is that we see that the caregiver's spouse is oftentimes neglecting their own health needs.
Yes, I see that a lot. Make sure that we provide the support to ensure that our not only our residents are taken care of, but their families are taken care of too. So we do have a support group monthly that we go out to lunch, and we spread our support with one another.
One of the challenges everybody says is no person woke up one day and said, hot dang, this is the day I get to go to assisted living. And so the reality is you work with families to help them manage this process. And oftentimes what I end up doing is helping the caregiver side of the family manage their guilt for recognizing they really can't deal with it any longer.
Yes, so our aspect with that is really individualized. Some families, we offer them to join in a community-based program, so that way that individual and their spouse may join in the community and be involved in meal times or some activities, just so that way they can see what they're engaging themselves into.
So if somebody wanted to get more information, how can they?
They can reach us at 301-766-9202.
And that's in Hagerstown.
And that is in Hagerstown, 310 Cameo Drive.
Gabrielle, thanks for taking time.
Thank
to
you
appear
very
on the
much,
program.
Mr. Day.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
The Community Foundation has helped create signs of community strength for more than 30 years. Scholarships assist with post-secondary education, and grants support programs throughout Frederick County. Making a big impact. Because of generous donors like you. Add your sign of community strength by creating a fund that supports the causes you care about.
Albright, Crumbacker, Mal and Idell are a full-service firm that provides elder care services including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. Making Sense focuses on the financial issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Christian Wright, President of Wright Gardner Insurance. Welcome to the show, Christian.
Thank you, Michael.
Now, Christian, I want to talk about a policy that we recommend almost for everyone. There are a few exceptions, but mostly for everyone. So you have a standard policy, an auto policy, and that policy, might say 250, 500. It might say 500, 500. And what do those numbers mean?
Yes, those are the amounts that the insurance company will pay when you have a loss, and it's when you damage someone else. So the first number is, and what you just mentioned was what we call split limit. So the first number is the most that they'll pay per person for bodily injury, right? The second limit is the most that they will pay in one accident for bodily injury.
And then a third number might be 100,000. What does that mean?
That's the most that they'll pay for you causing property damage to someone's vehicle or home or whatever you may hit.
And so when we look at that, and we look for most people, we say, first of all, in a rural area, you might only get sued for a number that has some rationality. But if you're going to Florida and you're driving through urban areas, almost every lawsuit is going to be for a stupid number.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about before the state minimum limits that some insurance agents will actually sell. I think it's very unprofessional because it doesn't, those limits are completely ridiculous. But the point here is that you're right. You don't know what you're going to be sued for and what damage you're going to cause someone, who you're going to hit, if you're going to hit a doctor or you're going to hit a school teacher. It doesn't really matter. Plus, you could hit a school bus and have multiple injuries. So you got to really look at it to say, what's the worst thing that could happen that I'm capable of doing?
Well, and the other thing is that we have access to a software package that uses a bunch of public information algorithms, and it predicts people's net worth, and it's very accurate on it predicting. So the old day of being able to hide in the weeds and have somebody not know what you might be worth is really not realistic today.
Right. And that's one of the, that's something we hear a lot from clients is, how much can I be sued for? The reality is right now, attorneys can find out a lot about you and a lot about your net worth. And the reality is lawsuits aren't commensurate to necessarily your net worth. The objective of the insurance should be to protect you and your family.
So you have that 100, 300 policy we see all the time, which I will emphasize to our viewers is totally inadequate.
Absolutely.
And so you get sued for $500,000. Well, the insurance company sends you a letter saying we're defending you to 100 or to 300. Get your own lawyer from 300 to 500. How's the client feel about that?
Well, if they're going to hear ching ching cha-ching because the attorney's fees rack up very quickly. You have to go out and hire your own.
That's right.
And you have to pay out of pocket. So that's something we want to avoid, and there are ways to avoid that.
And then, of course, that 100,000, it might be okay as long as you're tangling with an automobile, but if you tangle with a semi-truck with a load in the back, you could have $1 million exposure.
Absolutely. Or you lose control of your vehicle and go through someone's home. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can damage that are worth a lot more than $100,000.
And so we recommend this umbrella policy. And what it does is it lays over the top, commonly $1 million, sometimes more, depending on certain circumstances. So if you have that underlying policy, it just adds $1 million on the liability, on the total accident and on the property damage.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the benefit of the umbrella, is you have that peace of mind, right? Another benefit is the cost of the umbrella is a lot less expensive than increasing that first layer of insurance, because the umbrella doesn't even start or kick in until those underlying limits are exhausted.
So people don't realize it doesn't. So if you have a $500,000 policy, it doesn't pay $1 until it's already, the underlying policy's paid out $500. So it's really very cheap, because the reality is not likely to happen.
That's exactly right.
One of the problems that we have with professionals watching this show, particularly with common carriers, they buy that umbrella policy, they don't realize there's a hole in coverage in it, and that it does not cover uninsured or underinsured motorists.
Yes, yes, that's a huge issue that may seem small in nature, but the reality is, you don't know who you're going to get into an accident with, and if they don't have insurance or they have those state minimums that we talked about before, you have no protection.
And you're making $100,000 a year. Now you can't work for 5 years. You have a $500,000 loss. It is not covered by the umbrella unless you have a specialty carrier or do your underlying policy correct.
Absolutely, and that is a benefit of working with an independent agent that has the resources to tailor that umbrella to meet the specific needs of the client and to drop down over the underinsured motorist.
Christian, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us, Wright Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just as simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.